Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to my studio. This is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks so much for joining me. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to the channel and check out the other videos. And if you're here for a second, third, or fourth time, thank you so much for coming back and getting creative. Alright guys, this is going to be a fun palette knife scraping painting. So grab your supplies, transfer your traceable to your surface, and as always, make sure you take your progress photos. Now on mine, I went over the traceable with a black Sharpie marker for those of you at home that are going to pause the video and draw what you see. But if you're using the traceable, you do not have to go over the lines. Now, like I said, we are using a palette knife for the application for today's painting, and you can see the knife that I have in my hand. And we're going to be using a good amount of pressure. So I like to put two fingers kind of on the back end of that knife and use that as some pressure as I push and scrape right across the canvas. This is quite a therapeutic application, and this is traditional to my professional work on my Lovejoy Creations portfolio. And on my work, I'll do about 100 layers on top of there, scraped one on top of the other. Today, we'll probably get to maybe 5 or 6 layers. But it is a very, very stress relieving method. So anything that's irritated you, just kind of put it into the knife and put that pressure into scraping this on your canvas. Now, if you don't have a palette knife, you can use a variety of materials to do this same type of application. You can use an old credit card, you can use a rigid piece of plastic, anything that's got kind of a sharp edge on it that you can hold and just basically scrape paint on. If you want to do this with a brush, you can. I just recommend watching the whole video and seeing where we do some of the blending and overlapping. Where we'll do the overlapping with the knife, you'll do blending with the brush. All right, so you did see that I cleaned the knife and I've moved over to purple for the background behind this Buddha. You are more than welcome to switch out any colors. And again, notice that you can still see some of the white of the canvas shining through. So I am using a good amount of pressure. If you hold your brush at a 45-degree angle like I am right now and apply the paint thicker, it is a bit more opaque. So as you work on today's painting or play with the knife in the future, just kind of play with that amount of paint that you are applying, either scraping really hard or using that angle and letting it go on there a little more thick, a little more opaque. All right. Oh, and don't forget your progress photos. I know there was a moment ago to pause the video. Here's another one. Take your pictures. It's really nice to kind of flip back through your phone and see it transform. Now we are moving into raw sienna and back to the Buddha head, and I am moving down to a smaller knife for a little bit more control. If you only have that large knife or you're using your piece of credit card or plastic or whatever, just find a smaller edge. And if you need to rotate the canvas sideways, upside down, put it on your lap, whatever you need to do to be able to get into some of these smaller spaces with this a little bit more controlled knife scraping method. I am still using the same amount of pressure that I was using with the larger knife and kind of just moving my knife in all different directions. I personally like a lot of the texture. And don't be afraid to overlap this raw sienna on top of the yellow. Some of the yellow may be wet, depending on how fast you are working. But the yellow and the raw sienna will mix a little bit. And even if it doesn't, if it is already dry, by using this scraping method with the pressure, you're allowing enough transparency to show through from the layers underneath. So if you scrape the raw sienna on top of the dry yellow, you'll still be able to see some of the yellow. And again, this was one of my favorite things of just kind of playing with this method, and it's relative to color theory. We interpret our colors based on the color next to it. So when you scrape a color on top of or another color's underneath, it kind of changes your interpretation for that color. And there's some artists that play with color theory for their entire career, and I happen to be one of them that definitely enjoys the concept. So if you enjoy that concept as well, check out other videos and just kind of do your own research into color theory. Most of the things in art are relatively simple concepts, and it's the individuality of each person that brings that uniqueness and that kind of nice, fun vision for the viewer to interact with. All right, so we're doing good. We should have pretty much all the canvas space filled in. If you need to go back and fill in any areas, go right ahead. We're going to move back over to the background. And if you want to switch back up to that large knife, you can. I'm still using that medium knife. I'm used to saying brushes. Um, but again, whatever you need for your comfort level. And I'm throwing that blue right on top of it. And again, play with that pressure like I was talking about with the raw sienna and the yellow. The blue and purple is actually a really pretty calm color combo. So if you want more purple showing in one area, you can leave a little bit more. Or if you end up doing the whole thing and you go, oh, I want more purple here, just grab the purple and reapply. Like I said, in my professional work, I have about 100 layers that get scraped on top of my paintings. So there's really, with acrylic paint, there's no end to how many layers that you could do. All right, so it was another spot to pause the video and take your progress photo. We're still using that same smaller medium knife and white paint. And the yellow and raw sienna is pretty dry on my painting. Um, so we're getting a little bit of that transparency with the student grade paint. This is one of the reasons I like it for scraping, is because it is a bit more transparent and I can play with the colors underneath a little bit more. So if your paint has a little different consistency than mine, that's okay. Just embrace it for where you're painting today. Getting lost in this kind of scraping method, like I said earlier, is just really stress relieving. Scrape away any of your frustrations. I used to tell my students we don't necessarily solve your problems, but you usually feel a little bit better about them after your creative couple of hours. All right, and we will reapply that white. I want that to be a little bit more bold, and we'll also apply some shadows as well. If you are doing this for the first time, please remember to breathe, relax, you're doing great. And again, here's another spot to pause the video, and I do recommend letting your painting fully dry before you apply the black paint with this scraping method. And again, especially for the black, I'm using a lot of pressure because I don't want it crazy opaque. I want some of those colors coming in from underneath, and to be able to get that, just use a little bit more pressure when you're scraping it. You can always wipe off excess paint on the knife and then go back and scrape even more off the canvas. This scraping method is a little bit kind of like a relief method, to where you apply something and then take it away, allowing what's underneath, or allowing a shape to kind of emerge. And as we get into your black, scraping this on here, I want you to just observe where I place it and the general shape that I make with each of the placements of the color. And by doing that, you are strengthening your power of observation, and that is a core foundational art skill. And the more that you strengthen it, the more you'll kind of see it show up in your art as well as other areas of your life. And if your painting is a little bit different than mine at home, that's okay. You can paint this many, many times. You could paint this every day for a year, and your painting's going to be a little bit different each day because you are a different person emotionally each day, and also you're learning new things each day. So you're going to be building and compounding on your skills the more that you paint and create, which is why I highly, highly encourage that you find creative outlets on a regular basis for yourself. All right, so getting in some of the shadows around the ears and that chin. We'll get a little bit up into his hairline for our nice relaxing Buddha. And then we will let this dry, and we'll go back on top of it with the raw sienna, same amount of pressure. And again, just playing with this concept of our shadows and our light spaces. There we go. That's a little bit of the definition in the hair. Again, does not have to be exact. You guys are doing great. And like I said, just take this method and explore it. A lot of people will do this for their background, the scraping method, and then do brush work on top of it. Feel free to find your combo. Like I said, this is just so much fun. Oh, I forgot I took the black into the background. I actually wanted that to be a little bit darker. And same thing, use that pressure, allow some of that blue and purple to still kind of show through some of the transparency of the paint. And again, if you end up scraping it and you lost some of those blues, you can reapply the blue and purple on top of this after it dries. Use this video as just kind of a base guideline, and feel free to go where your instincts might be guiding you. All right, another spot to pause the video, take a progress photo. Again, let this dry. Um, and if you do what I just did right there, little accident, we still call them happy accidents. Just scrape it off and then you can reapply the color right on top of it. So I'm glad I left that part in the editing because, you know, that's part of life. We all have mistakes. All right, so going back to that raw sienna, still on that middle flat uh, palette knife and scraping right on top of it. Again, I am going right over the black, allowing some of it to shine through, using that pressure as I push the knife and scrape the paint into the canvas. And as you get more and more into this, like in all my classes, I recommend that you step out of your chair, prop your painting up, and look at it from a distance of 5 to 10 feet away. And you can see if some of the shadows are too much, maybe you need a little bit more highlight. And this is where you want to start trusting your instincts on what you might want to add or take away from your painting. And the more that you do this, the more that you kind of trust your instincts, the more you'll pick up on them, and then the more you just kind of refine and bring them into your creative process. All right, so I think we're almost done with that raw sienna. You guys are doing great. Remember to breathe. This is coming along nicely. And again, this one I do recommend letting it dry just because then it's a little more opaque coverage. And this is white paint, and this is the highlight value. This is generally what your eye sees first when you look at a painting, and then the prior step to the black and even the raw sienna, that's the midtone and the shadow. So again, just observe where I'm placing this white. Again, scraping it right across with that pressure so some of the underneath colors shine through. And then look at it from a distance. And if you are inclined to put a highlight somewhere I do not, or go back and add more to your shadow, go ahead and do that. That is part of your creative exploration. All right, just a few more spots that we're going to add that white. Scraping it on there. And when I paint this in my work at my studio, it was kind of a back and forth. You know, sometimes I add too much white and I got to go back and add the midtones. Maybe sometimes I get too heavy-handed with the shadows and go back. So nothing is wrong with editing or kind of a back and forth process to painting. So like I said, trust your instincts and adjust anything that you might want. All right, so pause the video, take your progress photo, and again, recommend that this is fully dry. We are going to move over to brushwork and just do a few little areas of line work to give a little bit more of an accent to the Buddha figure. So we'll basically kind of outline the head, the ears, the chin and the hair. I believe just kind of a couple lines on the nose and the lips. And like I've said in a few times in the video, if you want to add more or less than what I am doing for this part, go right ahead and do that. Trust your instincts. They are definitely your guide on your creative journey. Now, as you're using the brush, play with the pressure. Light pressure will create a skinnier line. A little more pressure creates a bit of a wider line. I am using a middle flat brush, but you could also use this small pointy brush, whichever one that you are comfortable with. And if you are still finding that your brush is shaky as you're going to do this, that means you're holding your breath. So if you exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, that will make it a little bit easier for you. Again, I'm just really proud of you for painting. This gets easier and more comfortable with more practice. You'll get to the point to where you look forward to your creative time. It's a kind of space for just you to hang out in your world and nobody else is there for a while. All right, here we go. I did go move down to that small pointy brush for the decal on the forehead. Very nice. And we are going to clean the brush. We're going to use white paint for just a few highlights. Same thing, just observe where I place it and mimic that to the best of your ability on your canvas, and trust your instincts if you want to put them somewhere else. So thank you guys so much for hanging out and painting with me. Please keep on painting, and until next time, cheers. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the process of painting and I hope you are happy with how your paintings turned out. I'm really proud of you for getting creative. As you're uploading these to social media, please tag me at or hashtag paintwithlovejoy or email me your pictures paintwithlovejoy@gmail.com. I really enjoy seeing them. I try to post them on social media to encourage other beginner painters to try the process of painting. But please share this with your community as well. Anybody who is kind of scared to paint, share your experience with them and let them know kind of how much you benefited from it and how much you enjoyed the process. So kind of share the fun. With that being said, if you have any comments, questions, feedback, things that you want me to paint in the future, please leave a comment. I try to respond to everybody as quickly as I can. And any of the future suggestions for paintings, I add that to my production list and get to them as quickly as I can. So in the meantime, please keep getting creative. Let me know how you're doing. And until next time, cheers.